Well, we've covered high school and we've covered school camp, but now it's time to cover the part of school that everybody enjoys the most, which coincidentally is the only time that you're not there: school holidays. Now, I'll be honest, a lot has changed since I was at school, such as the invention of ChatGPT and the youth crime epidemic, both of which play a major part in the Australian school experience these days. And these days, with school holidays being more like 2 weeks of day release after a 10-week prison sentence, and that 2-week period starting the day that this video goes live, I think we better buckle in for a rowdy one. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's get into it. Starting off with everyone's favourite part of school holidays: homework. Now, I'll be honest, throughout my entire school career, I did maybe 15 minutes of homework total, and roughly 0 of those 15 minutes were during school holidays. And still to this day, my proudest school moment was when I didn't read the English book and got 82% on the exam, proving that I have an unrivaled talent of being able to talk shit out of my ass, which is basically the entire reason I managed to get this YouTube channel to over 100,000 subscribers. Anyway, that's enough of me singing my praises. Now, the definition of a holiday is to get away from your usual mundane day-to-day job, work, or life. Unless of course you're unemployed, then every day's a holiday. But I always found myself asking, why the hell would they even give us holiday homework in the first place? Nothing ruins school holidays quite like having to read a book for English or study for a test. Now, back when I was in high school, we actually had to do the holiday homework ourselves. Not that I actually did any though, but I had to at least put in the effort of going to Wikipedia, copying, pasting, and then changing some of the words so that I wouldn't get busted. And then not long after I graduated, the younger generation were gifted with ChatGPT. So holiday homework that used to just be a pain in the ass and take up all your time can now be completed in seconds to give you more time to get into the important things. But before we move on, let's make a deal. If all of you watching right now press the subscribe button and this video reaches 10,000 likes, I will personally deliver the CEO of homework a knuckle sandwich. Anyway, now when I was in high school, I spent most of my time grinding Fortnite for the Omega Lights, meeting up with my friends to do absolutely nothing because we were too young to do anything fun, riding bikes, and playing PlayStation. But these days it seems that the younger generation has found new and improved ways to entertain themselves on that 2-week period. The first one, of course, being car theft. Now, I personally was looking to buy a Lamborghini, but then when I started seeing news stories of kids just walking up to people's front doors with these devices and then just jumping in their $100,000 car and driving off, I decided that I'd get a 25-year-old Ford Falcon full of rust instead. Now, back in the day, if you wanted to steal someone's car, you'd have to do a hijacking, break into their house and steal their keys, or just steal the keys off the person themselves. But with these new devices that you can literally buy off Facebook Marketplace for a couple $100s, you can literally just walk up to someone's car, jump in it, and drive off. Now, obviously, I'm not encouraging this behavior because it would be pretty fucking annoying if it happened to me, but there's a reason that these kids love to do this. Because they know they can get away with it. Like this kid here who's got almost 400 criminal offences for similar things, yet they just kept letting him out on bail and he does it again and again and again. Now, most of the time it seems that these kids just steal these cars, fill them up with a bunch of their mates.
Pulling up next to them, mates in a stolen BMW.
Jump in, jump in, jump in.
And do laps the freeways, and you can even see the police chopper doing laps chasing them on said freeways. And then the only real way that these car chases end is when they either crash or run out of fuel. And then of course the family comes out and talks about how innocent their little boy was, which always goes down well in the court of public opinion. But if you're not out there stealing cars, there's something else that you can do with your time, and that of course is going to the shopping centres. Now, since about the 80s, teenagers have always been hanging around in shopping centres on weekends and school holidays. But recently the teenagers of Australia have found a new way to occupy themselves when at said shopping centres, and that of course is with machete warfare. Now, before we get into this, of course you have to give a shout out to Melbourne's Northland Shopping Centre, which seems to have become the new stomping ground for this sort of degenerate behaviour, having both a machete fight and a stolen car driven through the shopping centre in the last month. So I'm keen to see what the other degenerates managed to cook up this school holidays. Now look, when I was in school there was always fights and punch-ons at the local shopping centre. It's always been that way and it's never going to change. But back then it was just bare knuckle brawling, not the medieval sword fights that we're seeing these days. But luckily the Victorian state government moved swiftly to ban machetes, just like they banned illegal cigarettes, drugs and crime. And we saw just how well this worked, with a machete warfare breaking out the very next day. Now obviously it's not as simple as just getting on TV and saying that machetes are banned. Queensland's school holidays literally started last week, and on the first night of school holidays a 15-year-old stabbed someone to death. Anyway, Besides drinking fat lamb in the local park, there's not really much more that I can think of off the top of my head to keep you entertained during school holidays. So I put this little questionnaire up on my Instagram story asking you guys who are still in school what you do to keep yourself entertained. And despite the fact that 90% of the answers I received made me question my faith in humanity, I did get some good ones. Now the first one we'll talk about is of course arson. Now unlike some of the people in my World's Dumbest Criminals video, I'm actually pretty good at lighting shit on fire. Whether it's bins, mattresses, you name it, lighting things on fire is just another way to pass the time on school holidays. While these days of course the crowd favourite thing to light on fire has to be tobacco stores, there's nothing better than getting 3 cans of deodorants, a whole packet of sprinklers, and then sending a bin at the park into the stratosphere. Now looking back on this now, it was probably a little bit stupid, but back then I was known as Melbourne's Oppenheimer. But nobody got hurt and I didn't start any crazy bushfires, so it's a win-win situation in my books. Next up we have the classic working at fast food restaurants. Now of course, these machetes aren't just going to buy themselves. Now unless you're on Centrelink or going to risk robbing a store that sells weapons, you got to earn some money somehow. And what's the only place that's happy to hire a 15-year-old with no experience to save money? You guessed it, Macca's and KFC. Now if anyone out there is thinking about getting a job in fast food, just don't. I was getting paid $17 an hour to do 8-hour overnight shifts from like 10 PM to 6 AM at one of Australia's busiest McDonald's. I could have earned more money just collecting bottles and taking them to the recycling things, but I was on the COVID disaster payments as well for some of that time, so I had to have a job on paper, otherwise I couldn't claim them. Now these low wages make it make sense why all these kids go into crime, because crime pays a lot more than $13 an hour. Anyway, nobody likes to work and nobody likes to hear about it when they're not at work either, so let's move on. Next up of course we have alcohol. Not so surprisingly, this is one of the most common ones I got, and I assume of course all of you guys are 18 plus, because otherwise that would be illegal. Now while the legal drinking age here in Australia is 18, just like knife crime, most of us start between 14 and 16 anyway. Now let me be clear, I'm not condoning underage drinking, but we've all done it. There's nothing quite like passing out in the local park after drinking 15 fat lambs. The next one we have of course is drugs. Now obviously I can't condone drugs either, but you guys said it, not me, and it also looks like a lot of you guys have something against roadworks. And that ties into our next thing. As far as I'm aware, every state in the country except for Victoria lets you get your red Ps at age 17, and that of course opens up a lot more tomfoolery and opportunities to fuck around on school holidays. Now obviously anyone can just steal a car at any age and do whatever they want with it anyway, but if you want to do it legally, that's the only way. Now when you have your license, it means you can drive away and go camping, which of course is just an excuse to get away to the country, light fires and drink. Then of course, what does every 17-year-old do when they get their first car and the ability to drive it unsupervised? You guessed it, skids. Now once again, I don't really condone this because a lot of people crash and it can be deadly. That of course only happens when people are going fucking a million Ks an hour in some shitty old Falcon or Commodore. But if you can find a nice quiet place to bring your AU Falcon down with you and some of your mates and just do skids all night, I think the general population will be a lot happier that you're doing that rather than getting out there, stealing cars and having machete fights. But then of course if you do get caught doing this by the police, you'll end up in a lot more trouble than you would if you were just doing machete fights and stealing people's cars. So hey, maybe you're just better off stealing cars, having sword fights at the local shopping centre, and invading people's homes. Either way, this school holidays, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and if you're gonna pinch someone's car, please make sure it's not mine. Anyway, on that note, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and I'll see all of you guys in the next one.